Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something really unique you brought in. It's called Part C.
Mm.
And it's this narrative from the perspective of a kinagata, a Moyna bird.
Hmm.
It's about its thoughts, its experiences, navigating a totally new place. So our mission really is to unpack this bird's internal world,
Yeah.
the struggles with belonging, memory, all seen through his eyes.
Exactly. And it's fascinating because we're tackling these big themes, belonging, memory, communication, but from a non-human viewpoint, it really makes you think about these concepts more broadly, biologically speaking.
Okay, so setting the scene,
Yeah.
the Moyna is immediately facing this huge challenge, crossing an ocean.
Right.
What really jumps out is this instant conflict inside the bird. It's torn, isn't it? Between this place it's only just landed in,
Yeah, only for a few days.
only a few days, right, and this complete unknown across the water. It feels like a genuine threat. What's your take on that immediate sense of instability?
Well, it taps into something fundamental in animal behavior, doesn't it? That need for safety, for things to be predictable. Even a brief settling in period creates a sort of
It's a
baseline.
temporary comfort zone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the idea of ditching that for total uncertainty, that's going to trigger stress evolutionarily, being cautious in new territory. That's just smart survival.
And physically, the text says it's recovered, but mentally, it's all about this figure called the king.
This past connection looms large.
Yeah, it clearly points to something significant in its past. But despite that worry, the immediate problem is the ocean. Can it even cross? How? And just thinking about it, wrestling with this decision actually wears the bird out. What does that tell us, that mental fatigue?
It really underscores the cognitive effort involved in making big decisions, especially with high stakes and, frankly, not enough information. The Mina isn't just facing a physical barrier. It's weighing risks, rewards, probably drawing on past experiences, even if those connections to the king are a bit murky for us. That mental drain shows that even for animals often guided by instinct, complex choices take a real toll, physiologically, too.
Okay, then comes this key moment. The Mina is in this state, totally conflicted, and it spots a flock of other Minas flying back.
Yeah.
And it seems almost impulsive,
Hmm.
driven by wanting to belong, maybe,
Right.
or just avoiding the ocean decision. It just decides to follow them. No idea where they're going.
It's likely a mix of things, all rooted in social behavior. I mean, there's the obvious safety in numbers idea, better odds against predators in a group.
Sure.
Plus, watching others can give clues, right? About food, about direction, even without a known destination. Just being with others of its own kind, conspecifics that might reduce the anxiety, the isolation of facing the unknown. It's a strategy you see in lots of social animals.
And it seems to work for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It flies along unnoticed, but then inevitably they realize it's an outsider.
Hmm.
They try to communicate, but nope, language barrier. Still, the flock doesn't kick it out. There's this sort of unspoken acceptance, right? Even though they can't understand each other. What might that tolerance tell us about Maina's social structures?
It could suggest a certain baseline social tolerance, maybe just recognizing this is one of us, even if different.
On a species level.
Exactly. While clear communication is vital for complex stuff, maybe just being there, not being aggressive, is enough for that initial, okay, you can hang around. It makes you wonder how crucial precise language is versus just that fundamental recognition.
So this journey with the flock takes our Maina somewhere totally new and unknown island. They land on a sandy shore to find food.
Right, the practicalities take over.
Yeah, the whole ocean crossing plan just shelled for the day. Survival mode kicks in, and the Maina joins the hunt for food. It really shows how basic needs just push everything else aside.
Absolutely. It highlights the primacy of those biological imperatives. Food, immediate safety, those often trump longer-term anxieties or plans. It's consistent across the animal world, really. When you need resources now, other worries fade into the background. A good reminder that even complex emotions operate within that survival framework.
Later on, when the flock is heading back, a young Mina tries again, persistently trying to communicate with our protagonist.
That interaction is interesting.
But still, no luck with the language. And this leads to a really cool observation in the text, the idea that birds, like people, might have regional dialects.
Oh yeah, that's a well-documented phenomenon in many bird species. It has real implications, too.
Like what?
Well, it can affect finding a mate, keeping social groups together. It could even, over time, lead to distinct subgroups forming. These dialects might pop up because of geographical separation or just through social learning in a specific area. It's a huge field, bioacoustics. Really fascinating stuff.
So night falls. The main flock goes to their nests. But our Mina is alone, settling on a branch.
Mm.
But then that same young Mina comes back, calls to it.
That feels significant, doesn't it? A deliberate approach.
It really does. Like a possible breakthrough, maybe? A connection being forged despite the barrier.
Hmm.
Why do you think the young one is being so persistent?
Could be several things. Simple curiosity, maybe. Young animals are often inquisitive. Or just that innate social drive to interact. It could even be recognizing the newcomer is different, maybe showing some kind of basic empathy, or trying to integrate the outsider.
And the young one leads it somewhere, not a private nest, but this communal roosting spot. Lots of other Minas there,
Ah, communal roosting.
which is totally different from the solitary life the protagonist seems used to. What does that communal setup suggest about this particular flock's social life?
Communal roosting offers several advantages. Warmth, obviously. Better predator detection, more eyes, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a hub for social interaction, maybe even sharing information about food sources. The fact this flock does is suggests they might have a strong emphasis on group cohesion, mutual benefit, a real contrast to the protagonist's likely past experience.
Then we get this really quite poignant reflection from the Mainai. It
Yeah.
compares where it is now surrounded by its own kind, but in this strange place, to the king's palace.
Where it was alone but felt safe.
Exactly. Solitary but peaceful. Here it's with others, but it's unfamiliar, unsettling.
Yeah.
It really draws a sharp contrast between different kinds of isolation, different kinds of belonging. What does that tell us about how subjective belonging is?
It really hits home that belonging isn't just about physical closeness, is it? Or being with your tribe. It's also deeply tied to feeling secure, familiar, emotionally comfortable.
Yeah.
The palace, even alone, offered predictability, safety. Here, being among its species paradoxically creates a different kind of isolation because of that lack of familiarity, the communication gap. You're surrounded but not connected.
The next morning, the young Mina comes over again, checks if the newcomer's okay.
That little gesture.
And it sparks a thought in our Mana. Maybe. Maybe it could learn their language if it stayed. And then, almost triggered by this, a memory surfaces, fragmented, being taken from its mother.
Ah, the past intruding.
By the king during some trip. The mother resisted. But the details are fuzzy. Why would these old, maybe dormant memories suddenly bubble up now in this new social setting?
New situations, new social cues, they often act as triggers for past experiences. Being around other Maenas, even if they speak differently, might just be enough of a sensory reminder of its early life, that separation.
Makes sense.
The brain constantly makes these connections, linking present stimuli to past events, especially emotionally charged ones, even if the link isn't obvious at first.
The Maynard then starts questioning its time in the palace. Why did the king trust it? Why let it go? Especially since it was captured so young.
Yeah, adding layers to the mystery.
It deepens the whole puzzle around the king and why the Maina is even on this journey. It feels like we're just seeing tiny pieces of a much bigger picture, right? What's the significance of these unresolved questions hanging over it?
Well, unresolved history, it can really weigh on you, can't it? It shapes your present, your choices. These unanswered questions create emotional baggage, a kind of persistent need for understanding. For the Mainaida, figuring out the king, the release, that could be key to its own sense of identity, its ability to actually settle here. It's natural, that cognitive drive to make sense of your own story.
And then we learn there was some promise made to the king.
No.
Thinking about it makes the Maina sad, weighs it down. But despite that sadness, that obligation, it makes a fine decision. It's staying. It's going to learn the language and eventually tell its own story. That feels like a real turning point.
It does. A shift in priorities.
What's driving that decision, do you think? To connect and share, even with this past promise hanging there?
It probably comes down to a fundamental social need, wouldn't you say? That urge to connect, to be understood, to share who you are. The promise to the king might represent duty, maybe even fear, but the pull towards communication, towards finding a place within its own species now. That might just be a more immediate, pressing need for its emotional survival. Sharing the story could be therapeutic, a way to process the past and maybe finally belong.
And just being around other Minas seems to unlock something deeper. These really strong memories of his mother flood back memories that had faded in the palace.
Wow.
It starts wondering where she is, if she's okay. It's
Yeah, it's quite moving.
that longing for its original family. How powerful is that trigger, just being near your own kind?
Oh, incredibly powerful. The presence of conspecifics can absolutely reactivate those deep-seated memories and emotions tied to kinship, to early life. Those bonds are often encoded so deeply. Sensory cues, social interactions that echo those early experiences. They can bring it all rushing back. That longing for the mother just highlights how fundamental parental attachment is and how lasting the impact of separation can be.
And right when it's grappling with these heavy feelings, the young Mina pops up again, inviting it to come forage.
Back to the practical.
Yeah, but even though it feels down, the Mina goes.
Mm,
It doesn't want to lose this fragile connection it's made. There's a real fear of more loss there. It feels very vulnerable.
That really shows that a bond is forming, doesn't it? A reliance, however new, on this social connection for, well, maybe emotional support.
Yeah,
Fearing losing that suggests it's starting to find something here, some small sense of belonging, maybe. It underlines that basic need we all have, human or animal, for interaction, to avoid isolation, especially after being uprooted or experiencing loss.
the Mina then has this moment, reflecting on a life that seems just marked by loss and wondering how much more. Quite profound, almost existential.
It really is. It shows a capacity for reflection, for understanding its own history, and projecting that into an uncertain future. That awareness of past pain and anxiety about what's next, it's a poignant glimpse into the potential emotional depth there.
And finally, it circles back to the core problem. The ongoing difficulty connecting because of the language difference. It's frustrating for everyone.
The mutual frustration.
It just keeps highlighting that central challenge, doesn't it? Communication is the key to real belonging.
Absolutely. That persistent barrier just underscores how vital shared language, or at least shared understanding, is
Right.
for building those deeper connections, that true social cohesion. The frustration on both sides shows the inherent difficulty, but also the effort involved when there's that desire to bridge the gap.
So, recapping this journey you've shared with us, we followed the Denna from its initial fear of the ocean, that impulsive choice to join the flock, the real struggles with communication, and these incredibly deep reflections on past and present.
Yeah.
This deep dive really illuminates that complex dance between wanting to belong, the weight of the past, and this kind of persistent hope for connection, even when things are uncertain.
And what's so striking, I think, is how its experience mirrors universal challenges. Navigating new places, new groups, that longing for connection, the frustration when you can't quite communicate, the way past events shape you. These are themes we can all relate to.
Definitely.
And those resurfacing memories, especially of the mother, the whole unresolved thing with the king, it had such emotional complexity. Plus, the possibility of bird dialects. It's just a fascinating detail about communication itself.
So, maybe something for everyone listening to think about. What does this May story suggest about what belonging really means? Is just being physically near others enough? Or does real connection absolutely need that shared understanding, that shared language? Think about how that plays out in your own experiences encountering new people, new environments. What are those subtle, maybe unspoken languages that we're all trying to navigate every single day?